Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. Hope you guys have all had a wonderful day, or at least a decent day, because we're still continuing to see a lot of uncertainty and volatility that's in the market, and especially with some of these individual names experiencing a decent sell-off, looking for a bottom, and retail really wondering, when are we going to see the reversals that we're, historically expecting in November? One big piece of breaking news that we have literally an hour ago is the government shutdown is over. That's right. We're going to be talking about, is this going to cause an influx of liquidity, or is a sell the news event going to happen? Hopefully not. It'll be interesting to see how trading opens up tomorrow. We'll be talking about futures, Palantir, where it sits at right now. Some interesting news that we actually find out from Burry's put position on Palantir. As we know, that's a big thing around this individual stock. And talking about crypto, of course, because we're also seeing some volatility there with some selling pressure. So if you're a new or returning viewer, hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos. We're trying to hit 30,000 by the end of the year. Let's see if we can do it. Pop it up on the screen here. Palantir at 184.17. That's what it closes at. Down about 4% of the day. And just in terms of a technical look, Palantir had a nice gap up here to the 190s, had a day or two or whatever, consolidation there. And then we saw some decent red candles at market open, more towards that intraday too. We saw a good intraday sell-off in the market. And you see here it is now sitting right at the top of this band, this consolidation band, this long base that was built out before kind of this earnings run up to 207. And Palantir, it has a strong level of support at 170. That's where we've recently had a big bounce there. So if Palantir hops back into this consolidation zone, that doesn't necessarily concern me in the short term or the long term. It's just going to be kind of hanging out there, I think, until it's ready to make another move. If Palantir is able to hold support above this previous resistance zone, that would actually be bullish, because then in the short term, I think we could have another retesting here, another kind of gapping up, I would say, and some trading around the 190s before another possible test of 200. Looking here in terms of the overnight hours, basically consolidating down about 3 cents, making really no moves in the overnight hours. Where Palantir is interesting right here, Burry had actually came out with this post right here. He's saying basically, so he bought 50 of these things for 184. What he bought, or 50,000, what he bought is 50,000 put contracts. He bought 50,000 $50 put contracts for 2027 expirations. And basically, what we saw with CNBC here was calling this bet against Palantir at $912 million. And he even came out to clarify that he did not spend $912 million on his bet against this. He spent $9,200,000. So literally less than 1% of that. So the fact that you're seeing the headlines here coming out with these huge numbers, and even Burry clarifying that, hey, that is not the amount that I took a short position on. These are the actual tickers and the actual contracts that he purchased. And he's basically saying each one of these right here, this is what the sell date was, and that this was done last month on some much better things, November 25th. He's talking about November 25th, so we'll see what happens there. But it just shows you that you're kind of seeing this overall beat down on Palantir. There's always a lot of skepticism behind it, a lot of criticism. We've seen a lot of attacks on Palantir, so it's interesting to see, that these big headlining news articles, legacy media, is jacking up these actual valuations of the put positions against Palantir. So I actually like that Michael Burry came out to say that, even though, anybody can short, anybody can go long on the market. So we'll see what happens with it. But nonetheless, looking right here, President Trump has officially signed the bill ending the U.S. government shutdown. This was a record-setting 43-day government shutdown. So wow, it took a long time. As we know, there's a large disagreement between the Republicans and the Democrats. Currently, this buys at 684.17, up about 80 cents in the overnight hours. So a little bit of buying pressure, not a ton of moves. This is still some consolidation. That's basically what we saw in the broader market here today. Consolidation. S&P 500 closing at 68.50. Now, the issue here and what we're seeing, especially in the retail markets and talking about BMNR and things like that, looking more into the cryptocurrency side of things, is that the market has been relatively resilient. I mean, it's at 68.50 right now. It's sitting near all-time highs because we did test, we had that 6,900 for a few days or whatever it was. But nonetheless, at 68.50, with the amount of uncertainty that it feels like it's in the market, is still very very resilient, and these are the Mag 7s that are doing a good job holding this up. When we're actually seeing some bids that are being caught across the board on some of the larger, bigger cap stocks and some of the even semiconductor stocks. I mean, looking at AMD right here, they jump up 9% on the day. So what's interesting is you're seeing a lot of rotation out of some of these maybe more speculative names, but also big AI trade names. And we're talking about a lot of the data centers, a lot of the energy for AI data centers. Where's that going to come from? Big names recently that we've seen is IREN. I mean, this was just at 76, sitting down here at 55.70 now. You see Cypher down here at 17.38. Other big ones that are experiencing a large sell-off is CoreWeave down here at $85.43. It'll be interesting to see. CoreWeave does not catch any reversal or bid here today. Don't personally have a position right now. I'm basically as exposed as I want to be until I think we see more of a trade that kind of plays out. But right now, there's just a lot of sideways movement and some very interesting price action. So don't want to become more overexposed than I feel comfortable with, especially more of a volatile market as we see right now, until we see more of, I want to say, confidence that's coming into the actual long side. And I mean, looking at Nebius right here, I mean, these could play out to be decent trades at 94.36. The last time, Nebius had a strong support was right up at that $96 level. So we'll see what happens, but that's what you're seeing right now, and that's why you're seeing a lot of retail that is continuing to be uncertain, because in a lot of these individual type of AI names, we are seeing a sell-off. And that kind of flips on over what the questioning is. Okay, it's like, well, the Dow Jones, it's closing here first above 48,000, jumping from the expectation of the government shutdown, which of course we have now, and we're seeing Goldman, JP Morgan, American Express, Morgan Stanley, all these soaring to new highs. Wells Fargo's, Bank of America. The banks are doing really good right now. So that's what you're seeing. Is there some maybe exposure out of these AI trade names? Is that what's happening? Or are we just seeing kind of these beatdowns here, market makers looking for liquidity, waiting for the next run up? Who knows? But that's where you're seeing uncertainty in the market. In terms of Ethereum and Bitcoin, you're also seeing a little bit there, because just looking at Bitcoin, it's back down here to about 102. So it's really riding that $100,000 support. Anytime this starts creeping back down to 100,000, it's funny, you see literally crypto Twitter that starts to freak out and think that, hey, the world's going to end. But if you looked at 100,000 last year in November, everybody would be celebrating by popping champagne bottles. So that's what's interesting about it in terms of just the market psychology and volatility, especially within crypto. Ethereum right here at 34.56. I mean, this is still just kind of consolidating on the day. We did see a sell-off as this was about to hit 3,600 and drop back down here to 34.55. This is where impatience is starting to enter. You're especially seeing that because a lot of these people on X and stuff like that are like, hey, November, we're supposed to have this huge rally and stuff. And, we're 12 days in and people are starting to become impatient, unfortunately. Sometimes patience is the key, of course, for trying to receive some of that capital gain or return on investment. And just looking at BMNR right here, why I'm particularly still bullish on this, even though it's hanging around 41, 42 right now, we've seen a large sell-off of BMNR, particularly, it's right at a very, very, of course, touchy support level. And we're seeing that with a lot of these individual names, like I mentioned before. BMNR right here had that strong bounce and reversal last time before it swung between the 50s and the 60s for some time. Now coming back down here, and it's kind of just consolidating right around these 40s, had a reversal at that 36. So at these support levels, what I do like, though, I mean, institutional ownership is still continuing to accumulate to BMNR. They want to get their exposure to Ethereum, and they're using the ticker symbol BMNR as their mode of exposure. And just looking here, you see ARK, BlackRock, Vanguard, JP Morgan Chase, all having basically 2 million shares plus. So Charles Schwab right here, even at basically at 1.7 million. So these big institutions are loading up with a lot of shares on BMNR. And if the institutions are silently going in while these are continuing to trade sideways, while Ethereum is continuing to trade sideways, and we're seeing this also with a lot of the other big names out there and a lot of the other tickers, is you're seeing a lot of institution that is coming in and currently buying out the dip right now as it actually appears, just looking at data, that retail is getting more shaken out. So is that what big money is planning to do? Prepare for the next big move? We'll see what happens. Of course, the market is, you can call it whatever you want, but it can flip both ways in the matter of just a few seconds. So we'll see what happens. But let me know, what do you think down in the comments? Do you think that Palantir is going to be able to hold support at around that 184, or do you think it's going to fall back into its consolidation zone? What do you think is going to be happening in the whole AI data, center trade with IREN, Cypher, Nebius, CoreWeave, and what do you expect, of course, with crypto by the end of the year? Peace out, take care, and I'll catch you guys later.